Do you know what's beautiful about turning 65? You get to drop the baggage you've been carrying around. I spent decades thinking I needed to do certain things. We all have. But here's what nobody tells you. At 65, you can finally stop doing 6 things that have been weighing you down. Today, I'll share what those are. And trust me, letting them go feels like taking a deep breath after holding it for way too long. The first thing you can stop doing: trying to prove your worth to others. I spent years doing this, showing off my career achievements, my house, my volunteer work. But at 65, I had this moment of clarity while looking through old photo albums. Each picture showed a different version of me trying to impress someone. The truth: by now, you've built a life that speaks for itself. You've raised kids, held jobs, helped neighbors, made friends, solved problems, and weathered storms. That's real worth, not a job title or a fancy degree. Do you know who already knows your value? The grandkid who runs to hug you when you visit, the friend who calls just to hear your voice, the neighbor who brings you soup when you're sick. Those people don't need convincing. So here's what happens when you stop trying to prove yourself. You start spending your energy on what brings you joy instead. Maybe that's learning to paint, or joining a book club, or simply sitting in your backyard watching birds. Because at 65, the only person who needs to know your worth is you. Next, I want to share something about trusting yourself. Stop doubting your gut feelings. Just last week, I got a call about an amazing investment opportunity. Something didn't feel right. Years ago, I might have ignored that feeling, worried I was being too cautious. But this time, I listened to my gut and hung up. Next day, my neighbor told me it was a scam. That's what happens after 65 years of life. Your inner compass gets really good at spotting what's real and what's not. You've seen patterns, you've made choices, you've learned from wins and losses. All that adds up to wisdom you can count on. Remember when you were younger? Someone would give advice and you'd push aside your own feelings to follow theirs. Maybe a friend said you should take that job across the country, even though everything in you said stay. Or someone pushed you to make up with a toxic relative because family is family. But now, you've earned the right to trust yourself. When something makes your stomach twist, walk away. When an opportunity makes your heart skip, go for it. You don't need 3 opinions and a committee meeting to make choices anymore. Speaking of choices, there's something else you can stop doing that'll free up so much mental space. Number 3, quit looking over the fence at other people's lives. I used to do this all the time. Scrolling through Facebook, I saw Martha's cruise pictures, John's new beach house, and Susan's grandkids' graduation. Each scroll made my own life feel smaller. Then one morning, I was watering my little garden. My neighbor had this massive flower bed with perfect roses. I started feeling bad about my modest tomato plants. But you know what? Those tomatoes went into my famous sauce that brought my whole family together every Sunday. That's when it clicked. Your path got you right here through every storm and sunshine. Maybe you worked part-time to raise kids while others climbed corporate ladders. Maybe you chose a small house to stay close to family while friends moved to bigger cities. Every choice shaped your story. I see people at 65 still trying to keep up with their neighbors, their old classmates, their siblings. But chasing someone else's life steals the joy from your own. Your morning coffee on your porch, your weekly calls with your best friend, your crossword puzzle victories. That's your highlight reel. Now there's another big weight you can drop after 65, and this one might surprise you. Number 4, stop pushing your dreams into tomorrow. Last year, my friend Tom kept saying he'd start painting when things settled down. Guess what? He's still waiting. Meanwhile, my other friend Sarah bought her first set of paints on her 65th birthday. Now she's got 3 paintings hanging in her kitchen. They're not perfect, but they're hers. I fell into this trap too. For years, I kept a list called Someday I'll, full of things like learning Spanish, visiting the Grand Canyon, and writing my family's stories. One day my granddaughter found it and asked, "Why not now? Out of the mouths of babes, right? You've spent decades being responsible, saving money, planning ahead, taking care of others. That's good. But at 65, someday is today. Want to take that dance class? Sign up this week. Been dreaming about seeing the ocean? Book the trip. Those stories you want to write. Start with one." My neighbor Betty said something that stuck with me. At 65, we still plan for tomorrow, but we live for today. She's right. Each morning brings new chances. Don't let them slip away waiting for the perfect moment. And that brings me to something else you can stop doing, a belief that holds too many of us back. Number 5. Throw out those words, "I'm too old for that." Yesterday, I ran into my 72-year-old neighbor, Carol, taking her first skateboarding lesson with her grandson. Was she wobbly? Yes. Was she grinning ear to ear? You bet. My friend Mike started a food truck at 68. People said he was crazy. Now he's got lines down the block for his famous fish tacos. Last week, I met an 83-year-old woman who just published her first novel. She told me, "I figured stories don't have an expiration date." Look at Grandma Moses, picked up painting at 76. Teichi Igarashi learned to read at 91. Laura Ingalls Wilder published her first book at 65. They didn't get the memo about being too old, and neither should you. Sure, our knees might creak a bit more now. Maybe we need reading glasses to check our phones. But wanting to learn, to create, to try new things, that doesn't come with an age limit. If something catches your interest, that's reason enough to try it. Got a new hobby you're curious about? Want to learn how computers work? Thinking about volunteering at the animal shelter? Do it. Your age isn't a stop sign. It's your green light to try everything you never had time for before. Now, let me share one last thing you can stop doing, and this one's a game changer. Stop dreading each birthday. Do you know what changed my mind about aging? My 4-year-old granddaughter. She jumps up and down, counting her age. "I'm 4, she yells. Her whole face lights up because getting older means getting better. Last month at my birthday party, I watched my family around the table. My daughter telling stories about her kids. My son brought out the cake he baked. My best friend since high school laughing at inside jokes. Each grey hair earned those moments. Each wrinkle came from smiling, crying, living. My friend Rosa says she feels stronger at 70 than she did at 50. Not because her body's younger, but because she knows who she is. She goes swimming 3 times a week, takes Spanish classes, babysits her grandkids. She focuses on what she can do, and that list keeps growing. Getting older isn't losing something. It's collecting experiences. Think about it. You've loved, lost, learned, and laughed. You've seen history happen. You've gathered wisdom that only time can teach. That's not something to fear. That's something to cherish.